What is up, pod heads? Episode 74 of the Audio Slave podcast coming at you right now. I am here, as always, with Anthony and Nate. How you boys doing tonight?
Fantastic, gentlemen. 74. We were just talking about that, how this has absolutely flown by. And we'll probably be saying the same thing at episode 100 and 150 and 200. And I mean, you get
it's kind of wild. We're closer to 100 than, when this thing started. Like, wow, how are we? Almost, it's 25 weeks away. That's before the year's out.
Yeah, just another reminder of how old we've become. Is now we have a tally on podcast episode 74. We're getting keys early, but I'm stoked tonight to nerd out, as always. That's why we do this.
Yeah, we've got a little deep dive on Tool's Lateralus, which, turned 20 back in May of this year. So we like doing the deep dives on the records that we grew up on, and this is certainly one of them. So, excited to dive into that, which you will hear a little later in the episode. But first, we're doing a little time travel again because last week when we talked about it, I said, I might have seen Greg in person here and there. Well, I ended up seeing Greg in person, which was a blast. And I know I didn't tell you guys I was going to throw this out there, but lots of fun meeting Greg in person, giving him a Audio Slave hat. We drafted him into the Audio Slave Hall of Fame. And it was a blast to meet him, check out the Bourbon Brothers in person, and see the guy in person. It was just so much fun.
Hell yeah. And you got to see him shred in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he was Money in the Bank, playing that just as he was back in the day with Zebrahead, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I got to see Elmo in person.
Oh, that's right.
Which is a call back to episode 64. Go back and listen to our last episode with Greg, episode 64, Wheel of Touring. He tells the story of how he found Elmo on stage after he was done playing with Zebrahead and Real Big Fish was on. Somebody threw Elmo up on stage, and he walked up to grab it. And sure enough, he still has this Elmo 20 some odd years later. And it's real. I've seen them both. He had both Elmos on his amp while playing on July 25th a few weeks back.
Freaking sweet, man. You know what's really cool is you completely have shown everyone that simulation theory is indeed false because you met Greg. It's not just a virtual relationship. You now have met him in person, saw him perform.
Yep.
It's all coming full
He's
circle.
Not a figment of our imagination.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, man, he's not some guy we saw on the street. We pretended it was Greg.
Yeah, pretend to be Greg.
So did you lock him in for a 3-episode deal?
Yeah, he said he enjoys hanging out with us, were his words. And he said that in the last episode with us too, so it's out there. There are receipts. Right. But yeah, he's down. We'll come up with another fun topic to have Greg talk about with us, I'm sure. The fairly near future, I bet.
Do we pitch it to Starbucks then?
We might have to. That's not a bad idea. Great place to poop.
Yes.
The friend of the touring musician.
Exactly. The friend of the touring musician. Place to poop, place to get your coffee. You need both in the morning every day. So.
No, that's badass that you made that happen. And it's just, we say this a lot, but when we start the podcast, you don't think that shit's going to happen. You wouldn't even have crossed your mind.
No way.
And it's just you told 16-year-old you that would happen 20 years later. You'd be like, well, that's fucking amazing. That's cool. That's fun.
Well, and they say don't meet your heroes, but Greg's just a good dude. So, his wife was a blast too. We had a lot of fun hanging out with her. Their hotel in Savannah, skee-ball and pinball in the lobby. That's fucking awesome. So we were doing that till 1:30 in the morning. Greg is really good at pinball, not gonna lie.
He's a pinball wizard.
Yep, pretty much.
And that coming from you, someone who's good with those games, he must be good.
Oh yeah, no, hand-eye coordination. Yeah. listen to the dude shred. He's got me there. He's probably better at Tetris than I am too, which would be saying something.
Yeah. All right, so what do we got? We're not going to jump right into Tool. We have a couple headlines and themes here we want to hit up. The first is live shows, live music, vaccination status. Nate, what do we got?
Yeah, the landscape continues to change. Live music is coming back, which is obviously a really positive thing. But with that come different variations of adjustments, right? That comes from the venue, that comes from the participant, which is us, the fans, and also the talent or the act themselves. So Offspring had to let go of their drummer. Did you guys get his name? I know he's not an original member.
There was a drummer. He's been there since 2007. It was Pete.
Okay.
Pete Parada.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was let go from the band because, from what I'm understanding, he didn't get the vaccine. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that wasn't in his wheelhouse, I guess. He just wasn't gonna do it. And Dexter Hot Sauce Committee Holland.
Well, and Noodles too. Noodles is pretty liberal. And I mean, I got vaccinated. I am anti. I want to get the vaccine. I want people to get back to normal, and I think that's probably not to get too political, probably the best way for that to happen right now. But some people are anti, and it is what it is, and you're not going to change everybody's mind. I'm not going to try to do that here. As far as the music lens goes, this is what we're interested in, right? We're worried about shows changing. We're worried about band lineups changing. We're worried about us not being able to maybe get into said show, or maybe even a venue saying, nah, if you're not fully vaccinated as a band, we don't want you here. So, I mean, those things are all kind of on the table right now, right?
Yeah, I still have a tough time with the venue denying the band, because you could, it all starts with booking agents and things like that, and they're going to say, yep, they're good. And for talent who's on the stage, who's naturally going to be social distancing, money talks, and they're not going to pursue that. So I don't think there'll be too much there. I can
Probably
see
not.
the interband dynamic, because I guess this Pete guy had pre-existing conditions, so I don't know the full story there, but that's neither here nor there. But that's a big step to do that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
If that continues to happen, then you're going to divide your fan base.
Well, losing members, and then just, yeah, you're right. You're having fans who, if you've got a guy or a girl who's been in your band for however many years, and all of a sudden you're parting ways because of political divides over vaccinations, like, man, a lot of times, I mean, we've heard that in the past with different musicians. I'm not going to name anybody in particular, but I know, just like reading stuff over the course of time, that some band members are anti one thing and another band member is for it, and they just kind of make it work. But this is one of those situations where it gets in the way of public health, possibly. So who knows who's on the right side there, but it's difficult. And I mean, you're right. I don't think that we're going to see venues say no to bands, because it's their lifeblood. It's what gets the people in the door. I do think they're going to say no to fans. I think we're seeing that in some places already. I think I sent you guys First Avenue in Minneapolis saying no to that. So, and we've seen other shows. I think Green Day did it. Foo Fighters have done it. So there have been some vaccine friendly events where, you're going to get that instead of you can't come in if you haven't had both doses yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a developing story, but also Lollapalooza just took place right in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Their protocol was basically show proof of vaccination, and I actually read the details, and it said a photo of the vaccination card is valid. So obviously that's very easy to fabricate, and I guess there was also scalpers selling fake vaccination card IDs.
Wow, that's a new level.
Exactly. So it's, the landscape has changed even with that. Not scalping tickets, but a vaccination card to enter the festival is a whole different thing. But the whole band member change with Offspring just gets me thinking, like, because we don't get to see these contracts. We're not Ryan Sennett. We don't get to see those contracts firsthand. Like, what does that mean for the band? Is it a insurance liability form? Did you check out these vaccinations? Are you tested for this, and this? If you're not, you'll have to be to enter the grounds, based on the fact that not only are we testing all attendees, but also bands equally. So, yeah, like you said, this could be the beginning of a huge shift in how these events are going to take place, whether it's just not doing the social distancing, but taking the precautions on the front end.
Yeah. So Lollapalooza, did that just happen? Was that the festival that we saw all the footage from?
Yeah, this
online
for us now a week ago roughly, but yeah, the end of July.
End of July. I mean, there were shitloads of people. Like that looked like it looked like a throwback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how it compared to previous festivals, but like to previous years of that festival. But man, people were going for it.
Yeah, they were.
And actually, tangent, I did see several videos of people digging up booze that they had buried on the ground.
No way.
And who knows? Yeah, who knows if it was actually like, I mean, I could do that in my backyard and say, look at me, I planted this at the fairgrounds, last week or whatever. But yeah, that's funny.
And then hilarious. We saw Fred Durst as dad vibes.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Conspiracy theory. That wasn't Fred Durst. That was an Andrew WK thing going on, where it's like, all right, who are we gonna cast for for this tour. Actually, I did see a meme that was like the dynamic in Limp Bizkit so whacked that no one paid attention to Wes's wild outfit. Did you
Right?
see that?
Yeah, everybody's just like, oh, there's Wes being weird again.
Yeah, everyone's desensitized with Wes's antics at this
It's
point.
kind of awesome though. Like he's always got some crazy getup on. Like, good for him.
It is cool. He does it all himself too. That's the coolest part. It's like, be in the dressing room doing it all himself, which is, different.
If you're new to this podcast, we are big Limp Bizkit and Wes Borland fans. Like we've gone back and talked about Wes's other projects in the past too. So yeah, we're not dissing him. We think he's awesome. He's a great guitarist too.
Speaking of festivals, out here in California, we got a little insight early, which never happens. One of the founders of the festival for Coachella had leaked purposely that Rage Against the Machine and Travis Scott will be headlining the 2022 rendition of Coachella this coming year. So that's pretty exciting. Rage is obviously a big staple for Coachella's history. So
House band for us too. So
house band.
If you had Rage Against the Machine being mentioned in the beginning, go ahead and drink. It's early. You said, right? Like Coachella doesn't usually do this.
Yeah, it's usually an official announcement from the organization, and even bands, everything's lip sealed. You can't say anything until it's formally announced. So I was surprised to see this, but maybe it's just to tease the fact that it is in fact coming back. Plus Rage, like they had a pre-existing tour around those dates. So if you were a nerd and kind of did your math, you're not surprised. I'm not surprised,
Yeah.
Travis Scott's a different story. I think he just got added for this rendition.
I thought I saw that there was also an announcement for 2023 too.
Really?
Oh, yep. It was one of the headliners for 2020 that got postponed to 2022, and now he's headlining 2023. Exactly. That's actually part of the reason too. I think it was Frank Ocean.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right. It was Frank Ocean.
Yep.
Jeez, I don't know if that works for them or against them. I don't know, because like if you don't like him, you're like, well, I'm not going that year. Or if you like him, you're like, that's a long ways away. I won't get my tickets yet.
Yeah, it's April of 2022, and the other thing is like as we sit here in early August, mid August, we're thinking where are we going to be at coming out of the winter next spring? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Are we going to be going to live music, or is everything going to be shut down again? So, it's an outdoor festival, right, Nate?
It is. Yep. It's out in the desert.
So that may help that happen, but with certain things. Certain guidelines and restrictions and whatnot, but exciting that Rage is getting out there. I wonder, man, are we gonna get any new music from them? Because they are playing some big shows that were gonna play them this year or 2020, and now they're pushed to 2022 for a lot of it. But like Boston Calling and now Coachella, might we get a song or two? Like that'd be fucking dope.
I mean, you gotta believe there's something there. Something like. All right, so they had those 4 albums, the one cover album. They had the soundtrack stuff. It can't just end there. And they had they have Live and Rare. There's no way it ends there. And the last time they recorded was Renegades, right? Or at least on paper.
Yeah.
There's other stuff. There has to be. And they could do a greatest hits and, like Stone Temple Pilots, greatest hits, throw a new song on.
Yeah.
In conjunction with this tour or with these shows or a new tour. Because aren't they going back with Run the Jewels? Or is that a no-go?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything on that. Again, that'd be a dope show if they do. And where Zach could do a little double duty because he does. He's featured on a handful of Run the Jewels songs. He's the de facto third member. So, man, I'd be really excited for new music, but at the same time, part of me is like, don't. What if it sucks? Don't take the legacy. Like, it's probably not going to, but at the same time, that's my like one guy on my left shoulder saying, "Yeah, new Rage, give it to me," and the one on the right saying, "No, don't fuck with the legacy."
Well, you could almost say that same thing with the live show. It's like we know they're gonna bring it. Like it's actually not gonna happen. But like, what if they sucked live? You know what I mean? That's the last taste you have in your mouth of them if you went.
Yep.
That's a good call. Yeah, Zach could like lose his voice mid-tour and it's just like all over and you just see him storm off stage. You're like, fuck, Ray just broke up for the 3rd time.
You're still angry, Zach? Jeez.
He is. I mean, go listen to Run the Jewels 4.
Yeah, new material would be excellent. It just, if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna say no, but realistically they probably have files upon files, notebooks on notebooks, even stuff they wrote down like on a notepad like last year or even this year, just with everything going on politically. And environmentally and everything. So, but will it come to a full on album or even a song? It should. Will it? Probably not. It really is too bad, But
I mean, they would have been a great soundtrack. Not great. I guess that's a poor choice of words. They would have fit 2020 with a lot of the political stuff that went on, a lot of the racial stuff that went on. They would have absolutely had something to say and said it really well, I'm sure. Is it too late? Maybe, but some of that stuff still happens. It's not like we solved it now that it's 2021. There's still problems every day, but man, they would have, I'm sure, knocked that out of the park as far as having a voice, voice of the voiceless, as it were.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, like, Coachella to me is just a whole different vibe. Like, that's not rage. Like, I can understand them wanting to get as many eyeballs, and it's not for the money, but like for their message, as many eyeballs as possible. But like, Coachella is a fashion show. Coachella is like Instagram. That's what it's turned into. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's no good seat there I know that you're not sitting down, but there's no good place to see the band. It's too many people.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that, they're from LA, right? So that's like the big festival in literally this whole state of California. Is Coachella is like the one. But when it started, I mean, it started with bands like Rage Against the Machine and Tool, for that matter, kind of headlining this full-on rock festival in the middle of the desert. So, if you go down to the roots, like, they are part of the, formation of this festival on the grassroots level. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's such a fashion thing now that H&M even has like its Coachella line every season, So it's
weird that it's changed.
Huh?
It's weird that it's changed. That it's gone from this rock show in the desert to what it is today.
Yeah, well, that's California. It's still SoCal.
True.
Yeah, I think it's the temperature, its location. I think it's in Cali. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't. If this was in Woodstock, New York, I don't think that would happen.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It came out a couple weeks ago, but have you guys watched the Woodstock documentary yet?
No, I have not.
I haven't either, and I plan to. I just, Nate, you lived it, so I want to hear your take on it after you've seen it, because you were there.
I watched the trailer with my wife, and I'm like, I was there. She's like, she looked at me. I'm like, yeah, I didn't see these fires. I mean, maybe I don't know.
Is that you, Nate? What the hell?
I really am just gonna stop it frame by frame and look for Nate. That's what I'm gonna do.
You were crowd surfing on the piece of plywood.
Yeah.
Oh man, I did crowd surf during Rage Against the Machine at Woodstock '99, and my brother thought that I died. That's the only clue that I'll give for now.
But you didn't, because you're here talking to us today about Rage Against the Machine. Go figure.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nate, are you going to the Coachella festival?
I'd like to. I don't know if I can pull it off, but I'd love to. If I can pull it off, it'd be excellent. Because I always wanted to see them at Coachella, because it is pretty cool out there. I mean, it's literally just the desert, and so it's loud and it's open and it's beautiful. And I've never been to Coachella, even though I've been down here for quite a while. So if I was going to go, this would be the one to check out. But yeah, I don't know. We're all adults now. I got to pick and choose these days, unfortunately, or fortunately. Yeah.
That's a commitment. I get that. It's not like it's a one-off in San Diego or Encinitas or wherever wherever you're at, LA for the day. It's not like it's that. It's a legit commitment, as we've talked about on our festival episode. So go check that out.
Big money commitment too. That's why I'm surprised about the headline, the announcing the headliner for 2023. I mean, I don't even know if they've opened tickets up yet, but that's a lot to fork up for 2 years out. You don't know. Most people don't know where they're going to live or what their situation is going to be. But
not to mention the world being all over the place as it is to begin with.
Yeah. 2023 Rage Against the Machine headlining Fire Festival. Hard Times headline or real?
Hard Times, I think. But could be real. All right, we want to dig into Lateralus.
Yeah, an OG.
Whose album is this?
A little band called Tool.
Tool.
Yeah. I think they make racks for cars too. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is it Tool or Thule?
It's Thule.
Oh wait, this is the band that keeps beating Taylor Swift in the fucking Billboard charts.
Yes. Every time they drop a record, they pound everybody.
And the owner, he owns a winery, right? Or the frontman owns a winery. Yeah. Okay, I know them. Yeah.
And the album cover looks like a textbook randomly. It's like, what?
It does. Yeah.
Like, what is this?
As someone who went to school for that, it definitely does. Yeah. Yeah. So Tool, Lateralus celebrated its 20th anniversary on May 15th of this year. So it's now came out May 15th, 2001, which is kind of wild that it's that old, because it feels like they could have dropped it yesterday. It feels like they could have dropped it 25 years ago or 20 years from now. I think it's timeless. I think it's probably the best progressive rock album of all time. It's Man, there's just so many things. We could do a full episode on probably every song on here if we really wanted to. So we'll scratch the surface on some stuff. We'll definitely nerd out on the stuff that we all love and, go from there. But yeah, I mean, who wants to lead us off? What do we want to start with? We want to do kind of our first thoughts on the album.
Yeah, like where were you guys when you first got this? Like, was this you heard the single and you got into it, or was this like you're dialed into Tool already given the back catalog and it was a day of type of thing? Do you guys remember?
Yeah, for me, I remember I had heard the name and I've seen it on flyers and magazines. And I had Enema. No, my brother had Enema. And I remember always playing the song H over and over. Really liked that song. But I didn't fully understand the band at the time, I don't think. So when Schism came out, I was like, it kind of like that logo and that kind of like mysterious Tool ethos that they don't really say a whole lot with, with what's going on with the band or whatnot. So, yeah, I kind of gravitated towards Tool gradually, but I wasn't a big fan before this, so it was kind of a new era for me.
Same. I actually didn't get into the band really heavily until probably like 03, 04, before 10,000 Days. And I mean, I liked songs. I liked Stinkfist. I liked stuff off Enema. And then when Schism dropped and Lateralus dropped, and I was like, all right, these are cool songs. You'd hear them on the radio, which was kind of wild because they're both long. But yeah, they weren't. When I was 17 when this came out, I wasn't like, oh man, I got to go to the store and get it. I wish I had been, because I'm sure there's some cool promo shit that dropped with this that you can't get your hands on anymore. But yeah, I it took me a couple of years. It was really hanging out with our mutual friends, Nate and Donnie, different Nate, that kind of brought me into this world. A Perfect Circle and Tool and Nine Inch Nails and that realm was through those guys. And yeah, 2004, 2005, I really, really got into this record.
Yeah, I think probably similar, Nate, my kind of vibe with them. Like I knew of them. I knew Sober. I mean, I think a lot of people knew Sober. I never owned an album before this. This was my, I'd say, give or take introduction for full record. I remember getting it at Bull Moose. It was not I don't think it was discounted. I think they knew what they could get for this album. And yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the artwork, but I think we talked about this on the album artwork episode, that they had that plastic sleeve, right?
Yep.
Which, a lot of bands wouldn't think of doing that. A lot of bands don't have the budget to do that. So that was kind of cool, and it drew you in. And I was fully on board with spending $13.97. But yeah, you couldn't escape Schism, and that was when I heard that, which I think came out pretty early in the release cycle, I was in. So I think we'll probably pause there. And are we going to go song by song? Is that how we're going to do this thing?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the question for you guys. This is a nerd question. Do we want to go song by song the way that they released it, or song by song the way that the internet thinks it should have been in the Holy Gift, which is what the reformatting of the album is? You guys hear about that?
No,
I'm blowing your mind right now. I'm blowing your mind right now.
Conspiracy theory.
So yeah, there's an internet. There's all kinds of. If you Google Tool's Holy Gift, you'll get this album in different sequence. And it's based on the Fibonacci sequence and the whole Lateralus using Fibonacci sequence, that type of stuff. I'm not going to get too into it right this second. We'll get there later probably. But people say the album flows better. I'm not sure I agree. I've listened to it that way before. It's been a long time. But I'm also conditioned to listening to it, with the grudge kicking it off. So, and I mean, we'll start there, right?
Yeah, so just real quick, I'd never heard that, but after you saying that, after listening to this for the first time in a long time today, I think the sequence is jacked, just based on a few tracks and instrumental stuff that I think I would have put closer to the end. And when we get to that, I'll kind of spill the beans on that. But The Grudge, that's the first opening track proper. Fucking epic. I mean, that is that the opener in the Holy Grail version?
No.
Yeah, that's a mess.
Yeah, right? I mean, The Grudge is a
this has to be the opener.
great record opener. Like of any band, for any band.
Yeah, it sets the tone. That beginning sound, I don't even know what it is. It's like starting some kind of like electronic device or something.
Machine, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I remember, do you guys remember, this was like out of the blue, like a month ago. I texted you guys and I asked, I don't know if I asked your favorite track off this album or if I asked where The Grudge stacks up in their catalog. Because I remember.
That sounds right, yeah.
I remember putting this album on and being like, damn, I kind of forgot about this song.
The Grudge is an underrated Tool song. Like it's probably a half forgotten sometimes too, which because of what's on this record and how big some of the other songs got with radio play and it just conspiracy theory type things and talking about different meanings behind time signatures and all that stuff. The Grudge gets lost in the mix there, and it shouldn't because it might be like a top 5 Tool song. Like it's just an amazing song from front to back.
Yeah, it's insane. I wonder if it gets lost in the mix because it has a similar chord progression to Schism. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
So I wonder if people just skip by it or they're like, oh, this sounds familiar to that. So I'm going to keep scrolling because I don't know, attention span or whatever it is. But yeah, like you said, it sets the tone for the record. Everyone has their shine on that first song. Maynard, obviously, but Danny coming in, Adam Jones, Justin, everyone gets like their time right at the beginning, and it just unfolds. And then I think it's a quintessential opening track for sure.
Yep, it might be their best opening track on any record, and that's saying something.
Well, is there also an element where like it's 8 minutes long, 8+ as an opener, and you're kind of like, all right, get me to the next song, where people might just maybe be conditioned to skip it?
That could happen with this, but it's so damn. It's not sleepy at all.
No,
I know.
No, I don't think so.
In your face from the jump. And I mean, we'll talk about it a ton, I'm sure. But Maynard is next level there at the end when they all come back together at the end, and he just does that long ass scream, just like,
oh my god,
man,
it's unbelievable.
That's why this has to be. You're right. There's no filler, and it keeps your attention the whole time. That's why this has to be the opener. So the Tool conspiracy theories, the Fibonacci sequence, guys, I think you get this one wrong. This has got to be one.
Yeah.
Yep. It just fits as an opener. I think it's their best opening track, probably of any. Not that there's a million records, but probably of any record. And there's some good opening tracks in their catalog. Vicarious is a great track. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great way to kick off a record that really, for songs that are 8-9 minutes long, or like coupled pieces together like Parable and Parabola, where you end up with 10 minutes or so of music and those two go together, for it to be as tight as it is blows me away. Like you can't, how many bands can pull off 8-minute song after 8-minute song that are tight and don't really waste your time?
I can't think of any where it's that orchestrated, and just the production on Grudge where it's this build up and then dies down, like lights down. Let's go to Adam Jones, let him just kind of tool on the guitar for a little bit, just a few licks, just to kind of captivate the environment for a second. Like, yeah, I can't think of any other band that does 9-minute tracks like you're saying, like this, that just takes your attention away from everything else.
Yep.
So something you said, Tone, which is actually a pretty good segue into the second track, which is kind of no filler. I think Eon Blue Apocalypse is filler, and I think it's a super interesting placement, and that's why it gets back to my comment about, I don't know if this is a fully cohesive album. I think The Grudge still should be one, but I think something like this would be better suited near the end of the record, and coming out of The Grudge into something more upbeat, like, I don't know. Well, I'll save what I was going to say.
Yeah, save that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that you're right. And this, I mean, Tool does this. They have quote unquote songs that are noise or some sort of noodling, or they've recorded something and then they've pitched it way down, and you know what I mean. Like they do that. They do it again on this record. It's coming up in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I get that. That's part of their mystique, and it does provide some ambience. I do think in this situation it does kind of it gives you a breath after how nuts the Grudge was, and leads you into the next song, which that's why I think it kind of works here. But at the same time, I'm with you. I think it would fit in other spots, and this might be a situation where on the alternate version there, it's a little later in the album. It's looks like 9 before Reflection, so it might fit better that way.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that it's an interchangeable track. Although your point with the breather after Grudge is like great assessment, just because it is so intense, and you're like, wow, that was a lot, and just like thinking about this song, Eon Blue Apocalypse, it really kind of like puts time at a standstill for a second. And I can't think of anything else but like a movie scene where it's just like panning in some kind of like war scene or something like that. You know what I mean? Like similar to like the song Explosion, you know what I mean? The calm after the storm, like, holy shit, everything's fucking blasted to pieces. Let's just take a breath here and collect ourselves. And I think that's what it is, they're appropriately for. With that said, during the mastering of this album, they actually dropped a lot of interlude tracks. So there was actually more, but they cut the album with like 2 seconds to spare before it went over to mastering, which was mastered in Portland, Maine, we talked about before. But so they actually had to get rid of some other filler tracks. So there's multiple Eon Blue Apocalypses that existed and are in the bins in Portland, Maine at Gateway, because I guess they cut quite a few of them.
Do you think they did that so they could fit it on a record or CD? Right, they had to, right? It's 77 minutes as it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. So 77 out of 79 minutes was the max from Volcano Records. They're like, yeah, you can't do more than that. And they're like, okay, we're going to, tease you guys and give you 2 seconds of the leadway.
Yeah.
Or 2 minutes. Yeah.
So are you guys skipping this song when you listen back to it? Like, do you guys skip too?
It's a minute. It depends. Depends on what I'm doing.
I don't, but this album, similar to Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, like, this is a front to back album that you just play. And at least, the way I listen to it lately is just like, all right, this is a full attention album. I'm not going to skip a track. I'm going to let this play through the way it's supposed to be. But interestingly enough, the vinyl version, right, you have this 2-tone that is out of sequence on the vinyl version because they couldn't fit the full track on one side. So they actually had to rearrange the tracks based on that alone.
Yep. Size wise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember playing this in my Discman back in the day. And of course, at least for me, like when I had my big binder of CDs, I don't think I
Wait a second. You still have them?
I do, but I mean, this thing used to go everywhere with me, from the car to the study hall, all that. But like, did the CD have? I don't remember. It didn't have the track list on it, did it?
No.
So I didn't know.
Inside maybe, but not on the back of the CD. No.
So like, I didn't know song titles. That's why, like, when I was looking through these today, I was like, I don't remember Eon Blue Apocalypse at all. I think it just, I probably thought it was part of the Grudge or part of the Patient. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good segue into the Patient. This is kind of the sleepier of the two, obviously, main tracks we've talked about so far. But it's melodic and it fits. It's not my favorite track on the record. Don't get me wrong, but there are some cool like build up from each piece. And they bring each other. They do this on every song, but they all have their moments to shine. And Tool's always kind of done this, where, at least since Lateralus, where one band member has done their thing and been forefront, whether it be Maynard or Adam Jones or Danny Carey, whatever. And then another piece of the song, it'll be another band member, Justin Chancellor, etc. And then they'll kind of all weave those pieces back in together. Yeah. And this song is a great example of that, I think. But it is sleepier. It's a little slower, but it's I think it's one of their stronger tracks in general in their overall catalog, but it doesn't have quite the bite that the Grudge does.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite tracks on the album, to be honest. I always kind of go back to this one. Sometimes when I want to listen just to a singular Tool track, I'll actually pull this number up because of everything you're saying, like that spotlight on each member, the fact they all come together towards the end. This is probably the song that changed my mind on production on an album because I was a snotty kid, like, oh, it's overproduced, whatever, thinking I'm punk rock or whatever. To come to an album like this and realizing, okay, it's not overproduction, it's a ton of production, but it's extremely, important and valid on a song like this or an album like this, because without it, it would be a waste. It would be a mistake. So it needs that additional, insight, oversight, whatever you want to call it. And that goes down to everything, down to like the vocal layering on Maynard. Like you can tell there's layering on the vocals, and that as a snotty kid, you think, oh, it's overproduced, but you're like, well, it has to be that way. How does that translate in concert? Maybe it's a voice track. It doesn't really matter because it's the full art piece. That's the way it's supposed to come about. It's like a big action movie. It's supposed to be over the top. So,
yeah, I'm with you guys. I think in both fronts. Like this, I'd say it's the top three songs on this album. The build up at the beginning into when Maynard comes in is next level. And I think this is probably top 2 to 3 songs vocally for him on this album when it comes in. And Nate, you made me think of something when I was listening to this, where it's like Tool isn't a band in the traditional sense. Like they're not a rock band, they're not a metal band. Like they're a band of musicians that, to be completely honest with you, they're just a couple degrees away, if they wanted to flip the whole band thing on its head and be like a Blue Man Group and be a Cirque du Soleil, like have it be an all immersive experience, because Maynard's like a maestro. I can almost see it's like an orchestra. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Listen to this album with your eyes closed. Forget everything you know about Tool and just picture it as this all-encompassing experience. I think they could do it.
I completely agree with you, and I thought you might say, before you said Blue Man Group, I thought you might say what I was thinking, and what I'm thinking is they could flip it on its head and be a jam band.
Oh, totally.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
They could pull that off too. They are so fucking talented musically that they could do really anything that they wanted as a 4-piece. Like they're just that good, and they ended up going this route, and it has some edge to it and whatever, but they could totally pull off a Cirque du Soleil like theatrical performance. I'm kind of surprised that hasn't happened yet. Maybe they don't want it, and that makes sense to me too, but they could totally be Fish. You know what I mean?
Totally.
They have the same level of fandom behind them that would follow them to the ends of the earth no matter what they did. So it's the same idea.
Well, and it's almost unfair to them to lump them in with any genre. Like you can't call them new metal. Imagine putting them against any new metal band we spoke about last couple weeks.
There aren't many. Yeah,
it's just like it's a whole different world, and it's just unique, and it's a testament to them. It's all positive.
Yeah, I think Cirque du Soleil is a great example because it's next level. It's expanding the capabilities of humans. Like this is actually how far you can go. Like Tool, and this album in particular, is a clinic for how it's done. If you want to be a drummer, listen to this album as your Bible, and you can probably become a pretty good drummer just based on learning these songs. So I think that's a great comparison because it's not just a normal play. It's not just a normal, Broadway show. Cirque du Soleil is athleticism on another level, almost beyond Olympic level. It's repeated on a weekly basis. You're going on tour. It's a production. It's a storyline. It's one of a kind, and Tool's one of a kind. There's no
Tool's
other band
absolutely
like this.
one of a kind. Yep, you're at that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say it. I completely agree. There is nobody like them. I said that same thing to my wife tonight when listening to this. I was like, I'm putting Tool on. I know you're not a huge fan, but just listen to here. Just listen to here. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like I see this now. Like this makes more sense to me because I broke it down on a nerd level, and I was like, nobody else can do this. This is the only band in the world that could fucking pull this off.
Well, I mean, to double down on that, there's not a lot of bands that could cover them in terms of, I know that you're not going to cover Maynard's vocals, but even pull off what they do. But then you get a factor in that they actually wrote that. You know what I mean? So that it's two things going on. Man, we're geeking here, guys. Mantra.
Yeah, we're only three songs in. Yeah. So I'm gonna put the next two together because they are together, right?
Yeah.
Mantra and Schism. It's Mantra's that kind of weird humpback whale underwater sound that you get, right? I remember reading what it was. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was a while ago now, so I can't pull it up in my head, but it's just this kind of weird drone, and it happens for what? I don't know, a minute and a half or something.
It's Maynard squeezing his cat.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I knew it was something weird like that.
Yeah.
And it's that for a minute and a half or a minute 15 or whatever, and then into, those first couple of chords of Schism, which I think this is another one of those kind of like Eon, where okay, the patient's over, we're flipping the script into the next little couplet. This is what you're gonna get. Take a breath, and then here comes Schism, which is fucking all time. So
Yeah.
It is all time, and I think a lot of that kind of gets lost in the fact that it was a single. So when I listen back to this today, I tried to strip out. I tried to listen to it for the first time, and this song, obviously has nothing to do with Bohemian Rhapsody, but it has that same effect where there's left and right turns that like you just don't realize when you're listening to it on the radio. Like put this in headphones and there's twists and turns in this song that to think that someone chose to take the song in that direction, it's like I wouldn't have done that, but that was fucking cool. Like,
well,
it's
a great
an all-time
comparison.
song. Yeah.
It is, and it's 7 minutes. It was a single, and it was played heavily. Like that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. And it has that weird music video because Tool music videos are weird. I watched a couple of those today just to kind of get the feeling for them. This is a love song. I've always said that. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it that way.
No.
But to me, it doesn't feel like a love song. But I think it is, or about how you keep love to working. Like you have to communicate. You have to be on the same page. You can't. It's not one person does one thing, one person does another. If you listen to some of the lyrics, it fits that for me. So it again doesn't sound like a love song. It's pretty. It sounds pretty dark, and I think there's some dark moments to it for sure. But the other piece is the time signature, right? It's a funky time signature, which is one of the couple of times they do that on this record because they can. Again, this goes back to Tool being one of a kind and being able to pull off stuff like this. It works. Nobody else could do this. I don't think anybody else could do it to this level. It had to be a fucking radio single that kills.
Yeah, you just said it. In particular, is the drums start to almost not trail off, but they start to do it like Danny kind of goes in a different direction randomly, almost like midway through the song, and your brain kind of goes in this like diabolic format. It's like, wait, I don't know what's going on anymore. Like I was with the song, and now it's tailing off in three different directions, even though it's still one song. So I mean, it's just a mind trip. One of a kind, like you said, all-time song. I didn't think of the love thing, but that just goes to show that Maynard's lyrics are as deep as the instrumentals that you can kind of lose focus. There's just so much going on, even though it is cohesive in a song format. But Maynard's, lyrics are just as deep as Danny's drum fills. It's like, man, I'm gonna have to listen to this a few times to fully understand what's going on here, and almost like single out the rest.
Was there a radio edit, or was it played in full? I can't remember.
I think it was played in full.
That's crazy.
I think it was like when you get those classic rock stations that play November Rain, like it's a chance for them to go take a piss. The DJs to go take a piss.
There you go. Yeah, it's like almost 7 minutes, right?
And here's Stairway to Heaven, guys. I'm gonna go take a piss.
Yeah, this is a song that holds up, and a lot of songs that got that much play. And then this is, by Spotify metrics, this is their biggest song.
Is it really?
Yeah, just barely over.
Can I guess?
You can guess. I'll know when.
I'm not sober.
No, not sober.
Lateralus?
No.
Oh, Stinkfist?
No, it's one of the more recent ones.
Vicarious?
Oh, the pot.
Vicarious, yep.
Yeah, Vicarious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, the pot. I take that back. The pot.
The pot's shorter. The pot was a single, and it was massive.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And it's close. I mean, sober's right up there too, but yeah, 7-minute single that slaps the whole way through, that still holds up 20 years later. It's pretty rare.
Man. All right, another couplet. We're into the next. I think the next two go together, right? They're 10-minute song essentially. It's Parable and Parabola. The names would suggest that they go together, and I think they absolutely do, because some of the lyrics are shared at the beginning of or the end of Parable into Parabola. It gets used again, and it feels like, okay, Schism's over. Maybe was a love song that felt like things weren't going the right way. Now we're into kind of a more positive. This song is the most positive song on the record, a Parabola anyway. It's very upbeat. It's very, forward thinking, very third eye type stuff that you get with Tool. And I love this song. It goes back and forth between my second and my third favorite song on the record, between this and The Grudge. Probably because of the positivity aspect. It's so refreshing to hear them also pull that off after just pulling off Schism, which was not as happy sounding. So, yeah, I mean, great 10 minutes of music here.
Yeah, they do the crescendo thing perfectly, right? You're captivated from the beginning. It's a build up. It's a constant build up, and it just completely unfolds, and you're there for the whole thing. I think, if anything, this song is a good behind the curtain look on how Tool writes, because these songs are kind of paired. Maybe they present these songs to Maynard in this format, and I think he reacts. He actually writes the lyrics to the song. I think you're right.
Yep.
So this is kind of a behind the curtain look at, okay, these songs are paired together. So imagine being in Maynard's position, having to write songs in a 2-part. Very interesting. It's like a musical. Yeah. I don't even know where this stacks up. I'd probably put it in my top 5 too. Yeah. Solid.
I think on Parable, probably Maynard's best vocal performance on the album. It just shows his ability, and I think it's just like 3 minutes of bliss. On Parabola, it's like the opposite end of the coin. Like it's relentless. And pause this episode, go to the 4:15 mark when Maynard and Danny just go tit for tat. I could listen to that all day, and I kept coming back to that when I was kind of ramping up for this episode. It's like, damn, it shows them at the peak of their powers, I think. And how long is this song? It was like 6 minutes?
If you put them together, it's 10. Parabola itself is 6:04.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are sequenced properly, to Nate's point, the crescendo. And I don't think any band does that natural crescendo as good, not only across the whole song, but build up within a song, you know?
Yeah.
And you feel it. And there's obviously studio tricks in there, but like, you almost look past that.
Yeah, and I like your point earlier with, like closing your eyes and listening to the album and kind of painting your own picture through the music, because it's so illustrated when you want it to be, because everything's there for it. All the paint, all the colors are there to fill the picture. So these 2 tracks do that for you. And if you just, focus on nothing but the songs, it'll take you on a journey for sure.
I have a question for you, Nate, because I know you'll know "In My Time of Dying" by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah.
You know the little noodle aspect at the end of Parabola? It's almost like the end of "In My Time of Dying" when it's like, oh, won't you take me? And then you hear a cough in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it feels like that. They're just kind of noodling at the end. Like, oh, yeah, there's 10 minutes of awesome. And and we're just fucking around in the studio. No big deal. It feels the same as the end of that Zeppelin song. So,
oh, man, great comparison.
Listen to the end of both of those. It feels like that.
So pause this episode. Keep pausing this episode. This will be like a 3 hour.
This is how Spotify makes money. If they want to, they sign guys like us, and we talk about music that you can stay in app and go listen to from the episode. Oh wait, no, don't steal my idea.
Use our referral code on Amazon.
Exactly. No, not Amazon. Spotify. Well, I guess Amazon. If Jeff Bezos wants to give us some money too, take me to space, bro.
I just want a bathroom break, man.
I just gotta piss, bro. I just gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh, man.
That was a tangent, ladies and gentlemen.
All right,
and we're at the halfway point, so that's perfect.
All right, listeners, what do DJs that play Schism and employees at Amazon have in common? They both want to take a piss.
They just need to take a piss. Oh, man.
All right, can I transition to this one?
Yes, and I have something that I'm going to agree with you on if you don't say it. So go ahead.
Ticks and Leeches, favorite song on the album. Last 2 minutes go so fucking hard. I mean, you can't listen to it without having a smile on your face. And if you don't, you're crazy, Does that jive with what you're going to say?
What I was going to say is this kind of goes along with the sequencing is off, because it's, kind of upper, downer. And this song is not downer, but this song is a little more heavy and intense than, say, Parabola was a little more uplifting and lighthearted comparatively. This song's fucking awesome. The drums at the beginning of this song, I mean, I sent you guys a photo earlier in our group text before we started. The second line you could see it. The second line was "Danny for the win, always." This is it. Like, he's my favorite drummer of all time. And the reasons are songs like this. It's just so fucking intense from start to finish with no let up. Even the breakdown, you know it's coming, so you're like, oh shit, like what am I about to get into? And seeing it, Nate, we saw it live. I think they did it in Boston.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago when we went down to that show, and it was fucking wild then just to see that live. And the fact that they can pull it off is, this is a song that you write in the studio and you don't know that you're going to be able to play it live ever. They can do it. No sweat.
Yeah. Speaking of that show, or just the sequence thing you were mentioning earlier, this is another song that actually would work as an opening track. I feel like it's got that intensity, but man, Danny's drums on this song actually reminds me of a throwback to Enema. I feel like this is kind of an Enema era type track, and man, it really is just a fantastic song. It just captivates you completely, and it's just, I don't know, that sequence thing just keeps boggling my mind, because it's like, this would be a great opening track, but it's just a great track in general, so it doesn't have to be opening. Great opening show track maybe.
Right.
But yeah, it's Tool in their best form. You said it best, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna echo exactly what you said about it being a throwback track. Not only the sound, but the name of the song is something you would have seen on Undertow or Enema.
Yep. Well, I mean, go back and listen to Jerk Off, right? You guys know Jerk Off? So early Tool song?
Nope, I don't know.
Okay, it's a precursor to this song. I think there's a live version on Opiate. Go back and check that out, because it's Maynard sounding super young, and then the drums are nuts, and yeah, great, kind of a precursor to what they could do with a song like this. Like, it's what you can see where they're headed.
Yeah, when you said the whole in the recording studio, how are we going to pull this off live, I was thinking in my head, like when you're like about to hit off the tee or on the pool table and you know you got the shot. I feel like this is the song where they're in the studio like, all right, we just nailed that track.
Oh yeah.
So I think we're all in agreement with Ticks and Leeches.
Yeah.
I think it could be my favorite depending on the day of the week. It's top 3 on this album all day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I have it in the top 3 as well. But I mean, the next song.
Oh man.
Man, I Lateralus is probably, it's my favorite Tool song by far, and it's probably a top 5 all-time song for me. It hits every button I want it to hit on a song that I love. I listened to it tonight. I had my couple speakers going at the same time on either side, so I could hear it from both sides. And every time I've listened to the song for the last 20 years, I've gotten chills. Every fucking time. I know where I'm gonna get them. It happens every time. And there aren't many songs that you can say that about. So, man, it's just there's so many weird things about it that are really cool that you could deep dive on. The Fibonacci sequence, the way that the lyrics are laid out, the time signature is weird. That's also a Fibonacci sequence number. Go deep dive that stuff on the internet. We're not going to get too deep into it here, but it's pretty wild how they put the song together. The attention to detail of this song, we could talk about for an hour and a half easily. And it's that type of stuff that always gets me excited, finding those Easter eggs, listening to the song a million times, picking out a piece that I like that I didn't know was there the first time because it's 9 minutes long. Man, it's perfection. It is the best Tool song there is. At me. I don't care.
Yeah, no, the song is insanely good in every sense of the word. I think the way you described it is kind of what I was going to say. Is it's so good that it's, it makes your hair stand up on its end. So it's not really because it's such an amazing song. It's really because it's a feeling. The song is basically captivating a feeling, and it's like, if you like that feeling, you're going to like this song. But it's like, if you like certain, I keep relating it to movies because it's so captivating. Like a really good scene in a movie that everyone agrees is one of the best scenes of all time. Like, this song is that, because it's captivating a feeling that you can only get, once in a while, once in a generation. And they did that with this song. And I'm not really sure how. Seems like it must have been a pretty intense writing session to have everyone work together to come to this, output. Yeah, it's time warping in every sense of the word. And speaking of that sequence thing, I feel like this actually could work as a closing track, just because it has kind of the pinnacle, and it's the title track of the record. So yeah, I mean, I think it is actually my favorite Tool song. I haven't thought about that in a while, but
yeah. And I think everything you guys just mentioned doubles down on the fact that I don't think anyone else can do what they do. And especially with this song, I think I I'll have to deep dive into the Fibonacci sequence aligning with. Is it the lyrics or the beat or both, or what is
Both.
it?
Yeah,
Both.
up and down from 8 to 1 to 13, and it's. I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but yeah, the lyrics, the syllables in each part of the verse, and yeah, and then some of the musical stuff too. That stuff hurts my head, but the words I can hear and kind of understand a little better.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that this Ticks and Leeches and Schism are the top three standout tracks on this album for sure.
I guess the other thing I would tell you is it is another one of those kind of back and forth from negative to positive type feeling songs. I don't think this song feels negative at all. The closing spiral out, keep going, spiral out, keep going, I think is more positive than it sounds if you listen to the record and read the lyrics and try to figure out what they're saying. Whereas like Ticks and Leeches is obviously a little more like "fuck you, get off me" type stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Lateralus, this is like, I don't know if you guys, Tony, I think you know this, that one of my favorite songs of all time. I've actually titled it the crown of my favorite songs is No Quarter by Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
This is like Tool's No Quarter. You know, it's a masterpiece. It's staple to the band. It's, if you get to see this song live, like you've gotten your money's worth for the next, 20 years, basically. It's just a bona fide masterpiece song. And obviously it's a title track for the album, but everything about it. And then we're such casual fans in terms of musicianship. Like, how do you play a guitar? That if you are someone like, Greg or whoever, to play the instrument, this just must be mind boggling to hear this stuff on a different level,
It's funny you mentioned No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. They cover that on their live record, right? Salvo.
Yep.
Tool does.
Yep.
And then
they opened with it at the Boston show.
Yeah. And then there's there's another Perfect Circle song they cover When the Levee Breaks. It's a very stripped down and different version of that, but Maynard's obviously got some Zeppelin love in his heart.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's any band in the history that's ever existed, if there's ever a band that had their whole career or whole album progression planned out from the jump, it would be these guys.
Yep.
Where like it all, like, it's almost like Lost, like the last episode's supposed to pull it all together. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know. It
makes me wonder, are they done? Or is the last song that they put out that like birds chirping shit that they did in the last album?
Oh, they're just fucking with you on that point.
Oh, I know they are, but like at the same time, like maybe we get more.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously, like Coheed and Cambria is not even in the fucking same ballpark, but like they had like a whole storyline planned out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's sequels and trilogies and things like that where, if there's any band that would have the full thing done and the full visual package known from the jump, it'd be these guys.
Yep. I think you're right.
That's a good point. Because, Zeppelin did that with 1, 2, 3, but they didn't actually have the material written, I don't think. So maybe they're setting themselves up for that kind of accomplishment. Like, oh shit, we have to. I mean, that's probably why it takes 10 years for them to write an album, right? They're like, oh dude, it's not ready. The sequel is not ready.
All right. Disposition, right? That's the next track.
Yep.
Yeah, slow song. Really kind of subdued vocals. I feel like this was a skip back in the day. And like I said, I hadn't listened to this album in a while. I listened to it several times and I enjoyed it. But I think back in the day, it was a skip for me. And probably a good place near the end of the album.
I agree. This feels like Intention on 10,000 Days, kind of a similar later in the album, slower song that is awesome, but feels like a come down from what you just had happen. And I think Intention happens after maybe not Lost Keys, Rosetta Stoned.
Okay.
It's like this is after Lateralus. Those two songs are similar in length, lots of things going on. And this is kind of another come down, but it's longer. It's a little more of a jam. There's some lyrics to it versus the stuff earlier in the album that's a minute long and just kind of sound.
Yeah, that's why the jam band thing you said earlier makes sense, because I think they kind of are a jam band, and then Maynard comes in at the end after doing 20 other projects and fills in on the vocals, But basically, they've been
slight Maynard dig there.
No, he doesn't. Obviously, he's one of the best vocalists of all time. But yeah, I think this is one of those tracks where maybe this would have got cut had it been even longer on the front end. They would have to, remove or cut this track down. But going back to the whole movie thing that I can't help but avoid it in my head when I listen, is this is kind of like the time lapse scene, after the movie is like kind of coming towards the end, and a reflection on the storyline up into this point, and kind of like a time lapse scene with disposition kind of playing in the background to kind of tie it together, rounding out towards the end of the album. Not quite the end, but you're starting to understand the storyline a little bit more. Whether it was written that way or not, I have no idea. But that's what it seems like with this song.
And then it segues into what I think should be the album closer in Reflection. I don't know if the conspiracy theory Tool fans, if they had this at the end.
Nope. Disposition is the last song.
Which actually, Nate, that kind of vibes with what you just said, like the closing credits, the reflection back. So that could work too. Another song where Maynard's wild on the vocals, and what is this, 11 minutes?
Yeah, it's long.
So do you think they go into a song in knowing where it's going to land minute-wise? Do we know that?
No, I don't think they do. I think they occasionally will go into a song thinking they're going to have a long, cohesive piece, and it may be 7, it may be 12. And then depending on how they want to break it down lyrically or do whatever with it, like they did with Parable and Parabola, okay, it's 4 minutes of this and then 6 minutes here or so. Same thing on 10,000 Days. Wings for Marie's part 1 and 2 are it's like 17 minutes total, but it's like 6 and then 11. You know what I mean? So I think they just write the music and it ends where it ends, and they clean up what they want to clean up and kind of put together things how they want to, and then Maynard will write stuff around that, and then maybe they figure it out. I'd love to know. This is just speculation, obviously, and that's what we do here. But I do think they don't put a clock on it. They just go for it.
I think it's way less intentional than we even remotely think it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think all these tracks are probably way longer, if you think about all these artists as writers, they're probably like, oh yeah, well, I'm just writing, books on books, and we have to cut it down to eventually 11 minutes, 7 seconds for the song. But I mean, it was supposed to be 35 minutes based on Danny's part, my part, and everything, and no one kind of having to cut down on their vision of the song. But because of the record label, we have to actually bring it down to 11 minutes, and that's the sacrifice. It's like for us, we're like, damn, that's insane to think about. Twan, interestingly enough, the only note I wrote for Reflection is just a star that says Cirque du Soleil for this song.
Really?
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
This would be a good one.
So I had that same vision, and I've had that vision a few times with this band and this album, just like how it could be a full-on immersive experience in a theatrical format. And I think they should do it because it should have been a movie. There should have been some kind of film accompanying this film, this album.
Yep, I agree with you there. The other thing with what you were just saying, as far as like the music and how that gets put together, it's no wonder that it takes them 5 years to, not counting 10,000 Days to Fear Inoculum. We're just talking prior to their long break in between albums. It was 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the year, depending on the album, between records, because it takes them that long to kind of put stuff together, because they'll jam, then finally hone down on it, and then give it to their frontman to write his lyrics and do whatever with it, and then probably have to figure out stuff from there. So no wonder they're not a 2 years and then here's a new record.
Well, the other variable is it's 80 minutes worth of music. Some bands come in at half that, and I know this isn't the traditional verse chorus 3-minute song, so it's tough to compare, but at the same time, I mean, what was the gap between the big gap there, 16 years or
close to it.
I mean, that's they weren't sitting idle. They all have other stuff going on, but I don't know, that's it wasn't a priority. And again, maybe this goes back to their original plan, like, all right guys, here's our 16-year break.
Right. Yeah, 13 years between 10,000 Days, which was May of 2006, and Fear Inoculum, which was late August, early September of 2019.
Crazy.
Yeah, speaking of that kind of delay, like you think of Masterminds and like, okay, it does take a long time to put out perfection. But if they were able to operate from fellow Maine idol or just legend Stephen King and just, get them out every fucking month, I mean, Tool would be on fire, and they could do it. I feel like they could pull it off and still exercise perfection. But, maybe it's time appropriate at all times. I mean, I don't know. These songs, the lyrics are different from what I think Danny and Adam and Justin are writing in their heads for what the song is supposed to mean. And then Maynard comes in and maybe changes it. And maybe that's another layer of complexity where it's like, that wasn't our vision verbally, but I guess you are the vocalists. And that's probably, another 5 years go by just based on that conversation.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, at the same time, like, maybe they're just like, this is what I do really well, and I jive with this other section of our band really well, and that's what they're focused on. And sometimes it gets, it takes 6 minutes to do. Sometimes it takes 17 minutes to do, but they do it, and they're just worried about that piece. And then Maynard comes in over the top, and I'd love to know.
Right.
We'd all love to know. Nobody knows, and that's part of the mystique. But it's also like, man, you guys have been around long enough. We've all been, soaking this up. Give us something. Let us know how this really worked.
Yeah, Nate, if they were a traditional album cycle band, it would hit a little different because by controlling the supply, they're increasing the demand, and
Totally. Yep.
They wouldn't be flooding the box and beating Taylor Swift if they had a album every 3 years. I don't think so.
Keeping people thirsty is definitely helped them over the years. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I know it's such a kind of arguing myself in my head about the whole thing, but it's like some books are so good, and series of books like Lord of the Rings, for instance, stuff like that is like, it's so good, but there's so many of them. Maybe it was planned in like a proper sequence, but Tool, I feel like all the band members have so much to offer that they could continue to put out greatness, maybe not in such a mainstream and ultra time sensitive format, but definitely like a little bit more fast forward than what we've seen. But your point ultimately is correct. It's so valuable for anything we get that it's prized because it's, it's gone through so many rigorous finish points to have it go publish. So yeah, I don't know.
All right, next track, second to last one, Triad.
Yep.
I feel like this could have been in the middle of the record as kind of a breaking up one half to the other, like the end of side one onto side two. You know what I mean? It feels like that palate cleanser type of song, but it's at the end, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's almost like a noise rock track where you're right. It's like it's an intermission. It wouldn't be out of place as an intermission. Now, if it was, would you put it at the end of? You'd have to put it at the end of side A, right?
Yeah, I'd put it at the end of probably after Parabola, probably, and then added Ticks and Leeches to start side B. That's just me. I don't know if that. I mean, the conspiracy theorists, the holy gifters don't have that. They have it. It looks like 8.
Shit, I said Holy Grail earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, so I agree there. Triad, another instrumental track. This is another behind the curtains look, I feel like, on this track with the band presenting Maynard James Keenan with an instrumental track and maybe just for the most part letting it ride as a somewhat closing track. I mean there's another track after this, I guess you'd say. But showcases again, right? Like their instrumental value and just like the tribal kind of soundscapes that come in towards the end of this album, like no matter what, that's going to translate to any live show. So back to that Cirque du Soleil thing, like this just like translates there all day. Whatever you want to do with a live show, like at least this stuff will work there. So yeah, this is cool.
And so there's one more track which do you guys know how to pronounce it? I'll butcher it.
Faip de Oyad would be my guess, and it's a Enochian language. Did you guys see that? I looked that up.
No.
I feel really smart. And it means voice of God.
Oh, wow.
And it's not Raynor. It's somebody else. It's like a voicemail from somebody.
Yeah, I think I would love to know the thought process of like, 1, why they included this, 2, why at the end, because it's kind of a throwaway track. I mean, are you guys listening to this?
No. No. But if you look it up, I think it's on there for you to look it up.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's why it's
probably
there.
Right. Yep. It got you to look it up,
Yeah. It's a voicemail from someone who claims to be a former employee of Area 51, and they call into some conspiracy theorist show from 1997, so 4 years prior to the drop of the album, and it's aliens related. And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to read the whole thing I've got here, but it's for you to go look that up and to find out it's something that they must have known about and wanted to like put on the back end to mess with people and to make them think about something. Who knows? Just, you're right. It'd be nice to know from them, like, why add this? Why put this on the end? But it made me go look it up, and I was like, okay, this is weird and conspiracy theory type. And there's a song about aliens on the next record, so who knows?
I like that.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they put it on for you to look it up, like that brings new meaning to it, to be honest with you, for me.
But I'm not listening to it very often. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a song.
Right. I know it's there, right?
Right. It's one of those.
Yeah, I listen to it now. I didn't listen to it then. Although the only time I did listen to it back then is when I think I fell asleep to the album. And you know how there's like a few minutes of silence after Triad, and then this kind of creeps up, and it was like 3 a.m, and this started playing, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was the first time I actually like heard it. So I was like, oh, this is still the fucking album. Okay. But yeah, a little unnecessary, but at the same time, like, leaves after such an album that takes you on such a journey, like to end it with this is kind of like that Back to the Movie thing. You know what I mean? Like, man, that movie was good. It's a good way to close the movie. And then at the end, they kind of do a little cliffhanger. Like, oh, is there going to be a sequel? Like, you know, what does this all mean?
I like that.
Maybe
I like that.
whole
Yeah,
story.
that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe the whole storyline is completely wrong and it's actually aliens or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, it's a little freaky. If it's real, it's even cooler. If it's a real voicemail. I don't know.
It's from some call-in show that was done for years by some conspiracy theorist named Art Bell. And
Wow.
it claims to be from some guy who worked for Area 51, and he says the disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them. So go back and listen to our conspiracy theory episode about the music industry if you're wanting some more of that.
Wow. This would be a good one to ask Tom DeLonge about this track.
Aliens exist, man. I mean, hey, it makes me want to go back and like try to listen to it again, because at the same time I'm like, man, things have changed now. 2021 lens, we know that there's unidentified flying objects up there.
Man, I've always liked this album. I've owned it for 20 years, but I don't know, when you take a step back from anything, because I haven't listened to it front to back like this in many, many years. When you take a step back from something and revisit it, if it's something really good, it brings a whole new appreciation, and that's kind of where I'm at with this. I'm older. I've seen a lot of crap, as far as music and albums over the years, and you see a lot of artists getting big with no talent, and then you put this on, and it's like, well, this is next level. I mean, I don't think there's any topping this from a musician standpoint, from a taking you on a journey, just picking something up new every time you listen to it. It's like, was that always there? It was just a remix,
Right. That's a great way to put it. It is absolutely something that you can listen to today, yesterday, tomorrow, and find something brand new. And the fact that they were able to get these four people ended up in a band together to make
great point.
All of this music the way that they've been able to make it over the years. But this, I think, being their probably best record front to back, it's wild that we have that. And then you have bands that not necessarily bigger, but big for different reasons, and they don't have, a quarter of the talent.
It's all studio tracks, or it's a catchy hook, like
crazy.
Does this album have a chorus on it? Like maybe Schism, maybe,
maybe. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. It went gold in its first week.
Right. Well, that's a different time too. But yeah, I mean,
right. Yeah,
they probably would go gold today if they put this out, or close to it.
Yep.
Oh, easily. Yeah. We always talk about industry plants here. I'm like, this is like a universe plant. Like the universe, like put all four of these people in crossroads to make this album happen. Like someone had to do it in the universe.
That's a great call, Nate.
It's a universe plant.
It was the aliens,
down
man.
to everything.
Yeah.
Down to everything. Down to the artwork.
Maybe they're all aliens. They're trying to tell us something, bro.
Ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it could be played. They could have made this 35 years ago. They could have made this yesterday. They could have made this in 20 years, and it would still fit in their discography. It would fit in the grand scheme of this type of music. And it is the best. It's one of the best hard rock / prog rock albums of all time, if not the best. And I think that's saying something. I'm not a huge prog rock fan, but they're definitely the kings of that as far as that goes.
And if you're listening and you're wondering why we didn't touch on the artwork, it's because we've already kind of done that with our album artwork episode, which is episode.
True.
I don't know the number, but
66 maybe. No, I was Senate 65. I can't remember, 65 maybe.
And we
First time ever being stumped.
we hit it pretty good on that episode.
Yeah.
But it's perfect. It fits it perfect. I love bands that don't put themselves front and center on the booklet, on the cover. It's just like, here's art. Don't worry about what we look like. Here's art, and it speaks for itself. And they do that.
Go see him live, where Maynard's just staring at the back of the stage. Or he's like in some weird costume.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they want nothing to do with that. They're more about here's the finished product.
Man, what an album.
Yeah.
Go spin it.
Yeah, go spin
it. The craziest thing too, just like throwback to when this album dropped. I did see them live on the touring cycle on the second leg. So they came to Portland, but they came to Augusta.
Yep.
For the second leg, and I went with my brother, and it was like the Augusta Civic Center is pretty run down, and so for a band at this massive and this album that's this much of a masterpiece, you feel like that would be like a Gillette Stadium show, no matter what, But it was an Augusta Civic Center show, not even sold out, just unbelievable, and them at the top of their powers.
Well, they always came to Maine, sometimes twice a touring cycle. Like sometimes they'd come through on the first leg and the second leg because they liked it here. They knew there were fans here. I mean, there are fans everywhere, but they always found a way to make it to Maine, which is, hats off to them.
And even a Perfect Circle too.
Yep. Totally.
And I got to believe that's Maynard influenced to some extent.
Yeah, I think Danny. There was a rumor of Danny having a house in Cape Elizabeth back in the day too.
Wow.
So there could be some of that. I'm not sure if that's true, but there's also a rumor of them being upstairs at Amigos, which is a dive bar in downtown Portland, after they mastered 10,000 Days. I think somebody said that they saw them upstairs at Amigos. So
wow,
who knows,
that'd
man?
be amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Imagine stumbling into that place. I mean, this is going a little deep dive on Portland, Maine, but it's an old kind of sort of Mexican restaurant type bar, but it's not. It's just a dive bar with kind of a cool outdoor and, the worst bathrooms in Portland at one point. And yeah, they're just upstairs hanging out, drinking scotch or whatever they're drinking. And yeah, they just, they're one of the biggest bands in the world. Here they are.
Oh, if you stumbled up there,
Crazy.
they'd probably tell you to get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a lot of fun. That was a deep dive of all deep dives. I think this is a quintessential album that we'll always remember. The fact that we got to live it when it came out and reflect on it, like you said, 20 years later on a bona fide masterpiece is quite something to live it, but also reflect on it as an older adult. It's really cool.
We'll do that again. Maybe not with that band, but we'll definitely do another deep dive like that again.
Yep. Oh yeah. It'd be tough to top this one though.
Yeah, true. Hit us on the socials, at Patio Slave on Twitter and Instagram. Rate, like, subscribe. As we say the last few times, tell a friend. If you like what you're hearing, and you've got a music friend that would also like what you're hearing, what they're hearing, toss it out to them. I mean, that's the way we get this thing going. That's the way we grow the Patio Slave family. So, yeah, tell a friend.
Yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And if it's your first time, check us out again. Thanks, everyone.
Peace, podheads.
Cheers, everyone.